I'm not sure about this, but I think originally it took like the bits and pieces and the ends of like root vegetables and cooked them in a sauce, and that's how the dish was created. This is something my mom told me, so I don't know how true this is, but it sounds like a compelling story. Hi, I'm Yewande Komolafe, a recipe developer and soon-to-be cookbook author. So I'm making an adaptation of this dish called Asaro. Asaro is a dish of a starch, a root vegetable, cooked in a sauce, a seasoned sauce. My version, I'm calling it a Yam and Plantain curry. And so it takes the components, the starchy vegetable, it takes the seasoned sauce and combines that, but this is like a brothier version. My life has been little bursts of it's kind of like a conglomeration of a bunch of different things. And so when I cook, I draw from my experiences growing up in Nigeria, I draw from my background as a chef, I draw from living in New York City, and so all of those feed into the food that I make. To be honest, I never peel ginger.
I was going to ask you if you did.
Yeah, I was just thinking, why am I doing this? I grew up with an awareness of food. Pretty much the things that we ate were from our backyard. So my earliest memories of cooking are with my mom. I think of her as giving in that way, where she didn't hide the kitchen from me or like turn me away. She saw my interest and called me in. My mom also worked as a recipe developer for Cadbury's chocolates. Through her, I gained an understanding of ingredients. Like I remember her just reading the back of, if we got a box of cereal, she would read the back to see what was in it. I'm choosing this particular potato because they're the most similar to the African yams that I could find. They're a little sweeter, but I do like the sweetness. The sweet potatoes here don't require as much liquid as the yams in Nigeria. And so it just takes adjusting, and so there's a lot of adaptation in the recipes that I cook here. So the recipe calls for green plantains, which are starchier, they're denser, they hold up in a soup better. You can also use slightly yellowed plantains. I like to make a slit, and then they're pretty easy to peel once you get under the skin. At the very core of my work in food is ingredient curiosity and ingredient discovery. I think that in my exploration of food here, even when I didn't realize it, I was constantly looking for something that felt familiar to me and something that felt safe and something that reminded me of home. Food has been able to do that. And you know, I've moved around so much, but I think one consistent thing throughout my life has been like the food that I make or the food that I create. The chili goes in at this point. I poke some holes in it because you really just want a little bit of spice, and you want the oils from the habanero to infuse into the dish. Sometimes the question of authenticity comes up, and people want to know how authentic my cooking is, and I laugh because I think it's you know, the food that I cook is authentic to me and my experience, but is it authentically Nigerian? I don't know what that means. Food is authentic to whoever is cooking it and what that person has experienced. So I'm using dandelion greens for this recipe. Typically, Asaro doesn't necessarily have to have greens. It just depends on the taste and the palate of the person who's making it. I wanted to make this bright and vibrant and really fresh tasting as well, so that's why I'm adding greens to it. So it's just barely going in. You don't want it too soft and too soggy. These take not as much time to cook. These should take about 10 minutes to soften. So I was in Lagos doing some research for my cookbook. I'm writing a cookbook on Nigerian cuisine. Did a lot of cooking in my mom's kitchen. It's a different thing than cooking in my kitchen. You know, when I wanted some coconut milk, I literally broke a coconut and grated it to get the milk out of it. There's a process of cooking there where I was using the whole ingredient, which was, I guess that's how I grew up, but it's different from how I cook now. Now I go to Whole Foods and grab a can of coconut milk. But I guess that's part of the charm of Lagos to me. That's the charm of Nigeria to me. So Asaro, as I know it, it's a thicker version of this, so a lot less liquid. The starch from the yams and the plantains, if you're using plantains, would thicken up the soup. And you wouldn't necessarily add coconut milk to like loosen it up. So this is the consistency you want. Food is something that creates space. It's a tool. You know, you could choose to use that tool however you want. And I've chosen to use it to remind me of the things that I cherish, the great memories that I have of growing up in Lagos. You know, it's something that I now introduce to my daughter as something that I grew up with. You know, I live in Brooklyn, which is like so far away from Lagos, but it's something that I could give her. It's like a gift that I could give her that says that this is where I'm from and this is where you're also from and this is something that we share. The coconut milk, the plantains, all of those flavors like hanging out together just remind me of home. I can't stop eating it. Food is a great way to bring people together. I don't know that it has all the answers to the questions that we have about why we live in the world that we do, but I think it's a gateway to conversation, which is that's enough for me.